So welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We're really excited to be having this discussion. So you can see the title of our session today is Crawl, Walk, Run, Customers' Advice on Building an Exceptional Customer Education Program. And I am personally thrilled to welcome Kristi Thurston, who is the Manager of Learning Solutions at Kustomer. She is here on our virtual stage today. Welcome, Kristi. We're going to do more in-depth introductions in a moment here, but I am just so excited to be having this conversation. I know you have a ton of expertise and learnings that you're going to share, and I think the audience is really going to get a lot out of this session. My name is Jack, and I lead the marketing team here at WorkRamp, so really thrilled to be having this conversation today. Before we dig into the chat, just wanted to set up the discussion. So we have a ton of great content to cover, and these are really the key points that we're looking to hit as we go through the conversation today. Kristi's going to share a ton of expertise and insights on how to build a customer education program from the ground up. So we'll cover topics like how to align leadership and internal stakeholders around your goals. She's got some great insights on strategies to create engaging content for customers. So we'll definitely dig into that. Metrics. Kristi has a really strong philosophy around how she thinks about metrics and how to measure the right things at the right time when building a customer education program. So that's going to be a really fun part of the conversation. And then, of course, how do you set your program up for long-term success, and how do you champion it for long-term success? So those are some of the topics we'll be digging into today. A couple of housekeeping items. Please put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the session, so just pop them in as Kristi and I are talking today. We'd love to get to them at the end of the discussion. And then this will be available on demand. The session will be available on demand. We will be emailing this out to everybody that attended or registered, and then you can, of course, watch it again or share with your friends and colleagues. So that is it. It is now time to jump in to the topic of the day. So, Kristi, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I know. I'm obviously excited. You can hear it. But tell us, okay, what is your role at Kustomer? What does Kustomer do, and what is your role at Kustomer? Why don't we just start there?
Sure. So Kustomer is a CRM. So most of you are probably familiar, you might have one. It has everything in one place for agents to be able to answer customer questions effectively. And then a lot of tools to help your customers to self-serve. So that's Kustomer, and it has lots of features, which is why we need a customer education program. And I am the manager of learning solutions. I joined Kustomer in September of last year. And as I'll talk about, I was brought in to create our first customer education program at Kustomer. But I've been in customer education for the majority of my career. I started in learning and development. I had to look at LinkedIn earlier. I think it was about 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
I've always worked in SaaS, and I started, and this is something else you want to put into the chat. Who else fell into training? Because I'll put my hand up. Fell into training. I fell into customer education. It was a role that opened at my company when I was, just out of college practically. And I said, yes, anything to get me out of data entry. And I love it. I love everything learning and development. And I have my master's in organizational performance and workplace learning, and selectively fell into it, but love it. Yeah, Brandy, I agree. So I started out working in customer education, doing training, doing live training on the phone all day long, and then transitioned into startups about 6 years ago. And I was in customer education, then had a brief foray into leading learning and development out of the people team. Wasn't for me. I missed technical training. So I segued back into enablement for customer service, and then just went back into customer education, because it's just really what I first fell in love with, and I still love it. And that's where I am now.
Well, I love that. And I know we're going to be talking about customer education at Kustomer, but I'm sure a lot of what what got you to where you are today, you'll be able to bring from your past experiences. So thank you for sharing all that. So let's talk about, when did you know at Kustomer that it was time to invest in a formal customer education program? How did this become a priority for your organization?
So that's where I steal from my boss. I slacked her, and she might be on the call. So I was not around for that part. That's why I'm here. And it was from my manager is the director of professional services. So she heads up all things implementation. And she says, we reached the point in our startup life where we're going to continue to grow. And what we had been doing was working where implementation managers were leading some training for our new clients, and other teams would be ad hoc doing training. I kind of want to put this around it because, if you're not really in the training world, you're just maybe not exactly training, but you're kind of training, but it was not scalable. My boss knew that it wasn't going to be scalable. And so she was able to make the case that we really needed to invest in a formal customer education program, and know that we needed to really spend time in her world, right? That she was the leader that made the argument to improve the onboarding, the client onboarding experience, which I'm sure many of you, let me know if you're working on client onboarding, was where we were going to need to start, and not even just onboarding alongside an implementation manager, but potentially onboarding on your own, self-onboarding. So that's the argument that was made, and everyone agreed, yes, we need to do that. And then I was hired, and then the rest of our story continues from there.
Yeah, it's a great insight, and actually kind of segues into the next question. So you decided, you're going to make the investment, and it sounds, could you talk a little bit about what the North Star of the program was? Because I think this type of investment can have a lot of different, reasons why you're doing it. But I think you just started to touch on what customers' North Star was for this particular initiative.
Right. So yeah, and that's kind of exactly where the North Star is and has been, in that the North Star was supporting implementation. When I was hired, it was, obviously launch our customer education program, but what's really the focus? What is the content? There's so much you could cover. The platform, I'm sure your platforms too, have so many different features. Like, what do you do first? And so in talking to my manager and understanding a little bit about what her team was doing, it was a big goal of hers to reduce the amount of time it took to implement a client. So that was kind of the first metric, business impact, I knew I was going to be driving towards. And then that really guided a lot of the research that I did that followed. Now, the North Star has changed a little bit. It's more of a constellation than a single star. But they're all part of the same world. So it's, perhaps reduce the amount of time it takes to implement a client, but also how do we support those self-implementing clients? Two parts of kind of the same puzzle, but they have some differences to them. So yeah, really it was that onboarding, that client onboarding. And how did I decide that? It was my boss, and she's the team. That's her team. I report under her. And that's what kind of guided me in the beginning, with, of course, the, stakeholder buy-in already before I got here from her, from the vice president, to say, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to start focusing our efforts.
Yeah. Well, and that's that's literally my next question. Talk about the other stakeholders that you had to get involved early on. Who else was kind of involved in helping shape what you were going to work on? What conversations did you have? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I knew coming in, okay, we're talking so much about implementation, and we're talking about client onboarding, and we just want to work on client onboarding. But clients are only onboarding for a certain amount of time, and then they're let loose into the world. And I wanted to make sure anything that I was doing wasn't negatively impacting anyone downstream from me. So when I first started, I think I went to my boss and I said, I'm not doing anything for the next month other than analysis. And I did a needs assessment, and I spoke to the leader of, obviously, professional services, because that's my manager. And I spoke to the head of customer success, customer support, talked to product, to make sure that I understood all of the moving pieces that were going on. I wanted to understand what all of their metrics and all their OKRs or goals or whatever were. So I understood what their focuses are and what their pain points were, to just kind of better understand how, when a client leaves onboarding, what we're preparing them for later on. And I needed to understand what that expectation was. And when I spoke with those other leaders, I was able to kind of also gauge a little bit of, what have they seen work well or not work well, and also use it as an opportunity to get some sage-like advice from people who had been at the company or at other companies of different sizes and different scale. And, just kind of you take every opportunity to get a mentor, right? So I learned all of their goals and what's worked for them and whatnot. And then making sure that I then synthesized all of that into a final report and said, okay, great. This is kind of what we've learned. This is what's happening in onboarding and the struggles and the areas where I definitely see that we can help. And then after they leave onboarding, they wind up with a CSM, they wind up reaching out to support. And these are maybe even just what's available data wise for me to even start to collect benchmarks or things like that for what I might look at in the future. Yeah. Certainly not right now, but just wanted to be aware of what was available to me data wise, what, other leaders thought were going to be big needs in the coming months, some of which we knew about that we haven't gotten to yet. And we still talk about it. But at those very early stages, it was very much just understanding our customers better, understanding what the leaders want and need, and most importantly, what data was currently available that I could even start looking at, knowing that in the future, when I'm asked, well, how well is KU working, Customer University working, I would know even what I could draw upon later, and use that to influence what we were doing.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about those metrics as we go through this conversation. But so you got your team aligned, you established the North Star. I think, you did a lot of things that worked really well. I think the audience always loves to hear about challenges that are, that people face when they're trying to go about this type of work. So what were some of the challenges that you faced as you were just starting to get your kind of plan in place?
So the first challenge, and this was definitely a challenge that I wonder if you guys have had as well, but we having had no formal customer education program and not really a whole lot of training programs in general that are formalized, I needed SMEs. I needed an SME. I needed subject matter experts to tell me what I didn't know. I was also hitting the ground running. I came in, we wound up launching Customer University within 6 months of me joining the company, and I wanted to go quickly. So I needed people around me that had that, the information, like the raw content that a lot of it, especially when you're at startups, so much of it lives in heads. Luckily, we also had a lot of stuff that was written down, but we wanted to get the good bits out. So we needed to identify SMEs. That was the easy part. That was not a challenge. I went to stakeholders and I said, hey, I need somebody to help me. Send me your SMEs. And they sent me their most expert individuals. So what came after that was the challenge of, are these the right people? Sometimes those people are so busy. Because they are so knowledgeable, everyone's knocking on their door. So we found that maybe the best and brightest, most high potential person that they have on their team is not right for helping me as a SME. Also, they didn't know how to be SMEs, right? We had to establish the expectation of, I need you to respond back in a timely manner, and I need to move. We've got deadlines. I know you don't want this looming over your head either. And there were a couple occasions where I had to escalate things to my boss, to talk to their boss, to say, hey, we need the SMEs to actually submit their responses to, our outline drafts and our course drafts, make sure that we were accurate, that we were covering everything. One thing, and I'll probably talk more about this later, that we've been incorporating so much into our university is not just here's how the product works, but here's how our, adding the life behind it and saying, here are clients like you, that maybe from your industry or your size. And this is kind of how they've used this feature and how they've customized it, and incorporating a lot of those use cases that I don't know because I'm not on the phone with customers all day. So I had to at some point say, hey, listen, I can throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I guarantee it's not going to. So I need the SMEs to cooperate. and that was a little bit of a learning process together, but now we're in a great place. We have the same SMEs working with us for at least the last 9 months. They're awesome. And what's actually come out of that is those SMEs, since we made sure we had one in each department that talked to customers. We have SMEs in implementation. We have SMEs in success and SMEs and support, because everyone experiences different things. And we wanted, again, to make sure that what we were doing wasn't within blinders. Just because I was on professional services didn't mean that was the only team I spoke to. Talking to all those other teams, now they're our evangelists, and they go back to their team now feeling so much a part of the process. they know what content's been made. They stand behind its quality. They evangelize it to the customers they talk to, but then their teammates, and they talk about it at their team meetings and whatnot. So really creating, we call out and publicly acknowledge and thank our SMEs as much as we can to make sure that everyone's also aware of their contributions. But it's really turned it into a really awesome system where we create a course, that SME goes back and just brags about it because they worked on it too. And now everyone kind of knows that it's there and the teams are really adopting it. So spending a lot of time on a SME, a subject matter expert, SME. I always think of Peter Pan.
Yeah.
But a subject matter expert. And you need those folks to really help you to gather the information you don't know. So, but really turning them back around, not just a one-way street of I need information. Yep, Natalia, you got it. Not just a one way of just give me, but then create so they come back out into the world and they now advocate for you as well.
I love that. Some of the best challenges always turn into greatest successes. So love that you have this great process now and champions for your program.
Yeah.
So we're going to switch gears and go into kind of the second topic that we outlined, just around getting your customers involved in the program, and specifically want to dig in a little bit into how you create winning content for those customers. So why don't we kick off? You decided you're going to create this program. How did you decide which customers you were going to start to get involved? Where did that decision come from?
We knew we were projecting a lot of growth in like a certain size client. Mm-hmm. And so we knew, and that was a client that we typically knew, or smaller size clients that we knew were going to need the most support, because they may come in having never used a CRM before, like our platform, not having, oh, we did this with such and such vendor, and now we're going to do the same thing or change it a little bit with you. Maybe having no background. We knew from, and this was all from that needs assessment that we did in the beginning and really talking to leaders. So I really got leadership to commit to the focused customer group, because one of the things you need to do is really understand your learners. And if you're looking at your entire client base, that can be daunting because everyone's so different. So we committed, and we had leadership behind us in committing to focusing on those smaller clients that we knew were going to have a lot of them. We knew they were going to have a lot of questions, and that they can sometimes be the bigger draw on our resources than maybe clients that pay a little bit more, right? So we needed to give them more resources so they were more self-sufficient. So that's how we knew also how to focus a lot of our content, is what are the questions that those customers have. We were able to dig into the team and our implementation team that focuses on that group and understand their struggles uniquely from other types of clients and profiles of clients. And that's really what drove that first decision behind who we were going to be involving and who we were going to be focusing on and what kind of content we were going to be making.
Yeah. Let's dig into that content. You already started to go into this. You were trying to figure out, what questions you were trying to answer, but, obviously a really big part of the success of the program is the content and engagement with content. So how did you go about making sure that it was not only answering questions, but that it was actually going to engage your customers and be something they wanted to participate in?
Yeah. I work backwards from a very logical, not logical, but a very no nonsense kind of way. And it's how much time do I have? And this would always be back when I used to do live training. It was how much time do I have? If a stakeholder came and said, I need you to do training for my team on blah, blah, blah. Well, how much time are you willing to give me? And so I thought about it from that standpoint first, is how much time do I think a client's going to spend with me? Because if we're talking customer education programs, we're different from traditional learning and development, where I can make an hour-long training and require that you take it and follow up with your boss when you don't. And in customer education, a little bit more of the finesse of, please take our content. I promise that it's going to be useful, but also don't stress. It's not going to completely derail your entire life. And so I started from that standpoint. Which of course is the micro learning. And we know that's kind of how people are learning now, but we then set kind of a goal. I think there's been studies of how much time does the typical person have for learning and development in a week. And it's about 10 minutes. I couldn't necessarily cap us at 10 minutes, but I said, like, let's try to keep our content to 15 to 20 minute bites. If it requires more to learn, then just separate it. But very much having these moments of stopping points, logical stopping points. And it was really we worked backwards from the experience we wanted the learners to have, and then fit the content into that. So 3 to 5 minute long lessons or tasks right within our courses in WorkRamp, and the course trying to be 15 to 20 minutes long overall. And then when we spoke later on and we were announcing this and getting our sales team to talk about how we have these resources, I like to say, you give me a cup of coffee every morning and you'll learn something by the end of the week. Because if you can do something in 3 minutes, then you can learn something. And if you can give me 15 minutes, all the better. And we were looking closely at our implementation, right? Again, client onboarding. We knew that we wanted clients to take this training leading into the calls they were going to have with their implementation managers, because implementation managers were spending a lot of time in a call explaining what a feature was and why it was important and how they were going to get benefit from it, as opposed to being a consultant where they could say, here's all of the amazing things we can do to make this like the best thing that you've got. Like, let me understand you and your process better, as opposed to let me teach you how this product works. So we looked at how much somebody would have to do within a given week or a given month or something like that, learning wise. And so we really worked backwards from there. And it's become a big part of how we advocate Kustomer University, that it is super quick. It's going to teach you everything you need. And that's worked well with the group that we have focused our attentions on, because they're not highly complex users. They have more simple needs that they then maybe advance over time. But at the beginning, we didn't need to present them with the most complex topic that was going to take 90 minutes to teach. We started with that foundation. So really, we started with that engagement of how much time. And then we added in the voice. Again, these like not even talking about the content itself yet of like what words are we going to use, but not only just the time, but then the voice, and trying to understand that, because we didn't have customer education. There was no established voice. And I'm a big fan of the psychological tricks of training, and that is making it social. That's why I love that we're using the format right now of a fireside chat instead of just slides. Yeah, because we're actually talking instead of here's the pre-prepared training that I've done. So we use a lot of like casual tones. Any narrated videos that we do sound just like this. I sound excited, or I sound like, and this is something where I'm going to slow down because it's more technical, but I do it and I approach it in a way that you would talk to somebody who was sitting next to you, if I had anyone sitting next to me, about what this is. So definitely focus first on what that learning experience is, and then fit the content into that. Once you have your box, if somebody never told me how much, like if you told me how long we have to talk, which I think we're already coming up on it, I would talk forever. And so I need that confine, I need that box, and then I'll put my content into it.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I know we said we'd take questions at the end, but there was one that came in, maybe a clarification point for this part of the discussion. Micro learning to get customers interested in addition to courses, or were your courses made up of micro learning, I think is what.
So micro learning, the shorter and the slowest, like the more succinct your content can be, the more people are going to be willing to buy into it. As horrible as it is for me to say, being an elder millennial, is that this is the age of TikTok and people's attention span is like this small. So, I mean, we've all been there. Every single one of you have been given a training, an e-learning to do, and you look at the estimated time and it's 90 minutes or it's 60 minutes. And you're looking at your schedule and you're looking at your calendar and you go, when exactly am I supposed to do that? And now that we're all working from home, literally just before my cat was starting to go off, my daughter's not home, but for a while she's 3, queen of distracting me. The doorbell can go, I mean, anything. So really knowing that you want that micro learning, which is not just going to attract people, but it's just logistically going to reduce the amount of distraction somebody gets, that then they look away from your training and don't come back.
Yeah.
So even if they got through 1 3-minute lesson, they've learned something that they can take away from it.
Love it. Okay, let's do one quick rapid fire on this topic, and then we're going to move to our metrics section.
Okay.
Tell me one more tip for keeping your learners engaged. You said micro learning. What's one other thing that you would recommend to the audience in terms of content creation?
Keep them as active as possible.
Yeah.
You don't want to have passive training. If your video is relying a lot, if your training is relying a lot on video where they just click play and they listen, even if it's the 10-minute video, that is 10 minutes of passive. That's 10 minutes where your phone goes off. That my phone's already dinged 3 times being here. My mom slacked me So, keep it active. Buttons. And this is what I love about using WorkRamp is I use the flippy cards, and there might be something visually that changes, and I'll put a GIF in or a visual, or then I have text to read, and then I have a video. So really mixing it up and making the learner active. So add some questions in. Don't add your questions at the end. Pepper them throughout. You can do that with WorkRamp. And I like that because it's the second that something is passive, distractions can come in.
Yep.
So if you're keeping them active and clicking and looking around and things are visually changing, you're keeping something interesting, which is, if you're all trainers, you probably know one of the tricks is walk pace back in front of your room. You can't do that in e-learning. So do that in some other way, right? Create a visual interest and an activity to do.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you for the tip. Okay, let's get into the metrics discussion. So I'm sure there are a lot of questions when it comes to how you actually measure the success of a program. So give us your philosophy. I love your philosophy. This has been one of the most fascinating things to learn about from you as you've been prepping for this. Tell me about, how did you measure the program's success once you got it off the ground?
And this is exactly why I was so excited to see everyone asking, saying that they were at the really early stages of planning. So think about your metrics, if you're in the early stages, in 3 phases. The first 6 months, the second 6 months, and then ongoing from there. If you're in the first 6 months, you certainly don't want to go to leadership with all of the amazing business impact metrics that you hope to impact that you found during your needs assessment. I certainly couldn't go to my boss and say, yep, I am reducing the time to implement. My OKR for this half is I'm reducing the time to implement. No, because I haven't implemented even my program yet. So my first 6 months, my milestone was actually launching my program, but also understanding what content, how much content, what did I need to launch? And then I could report and track against that and say to leadership, this is how close I am to getting the program off the ground. This is what you're going to like. This is what you're going to be excited about. Then we launch, right? Then we have months 6 to 12. And during that period, I'm really not focused on business impact yet. I'm really being selfish here. Treat your launch of your academy like a product release. And how do you track the success of a product release? With adoption of that product release. So we tracked a lot of that. Who is registering? What percentage of our users? Are they in implementation or are they not in implementation? What types of users are they doing? How many registrations? Number of registrations per user. I love tracking the average number of registrations per user, and then looking at how many, and kind of doing the number, right? I look at what the average number is, and then what is the average if it's 2 or more? We saw that jumped, it doubled. I was like, well, what does that tell me about the beginning course that I'm usually sending people to? Maybe it's not that great. We're getting drop off. We also track during this period. I'm trying to talk really fast, Jack.
No. I think this is a great part. So
slow it down. So the other thing that I tracked in here was, and if anyone's familiar with the Kirkpatrick levels of evaluation, allow me to nerd out for a moment. Level 1 and level 2, we were thinking about doing. So we ask questions in all of our courses. At the end of our course, we ask a satisfaction question, but I don't just word it like, how satisfied were you with this training? We ask a question of, oh, Brandy, you like this stuff. So we ask at the end of every course, this course provided me with value back to my organization. I forget exactly how we word it, but I added the word value in there. This is going to actually give me something back in return. We ask at the end of every single course. At the beginning and end of every single course, we also ask for self-reported confidence. This is one of my favorite things because it does double, triple duty. At the very beginning of a course, especially if it's about a product feature, we are going to say, hey, here's what you're going to learn, right? Here's the learning objectives, but here's basically what you're going to be able to do coming out of it. How confident do you feel in being able to do that right now? Yeah. Because you don't know, right? You might have somebody who's brand new and their confidence level is like 0. I've never done this before. Or you might have somebody who's like, well, I've dabbled and I'm more of like a 3 or a 4, but I want to learn a little bit more. Yeah. And then I ask that exact same question at the end of my course. So now I can see, does somebody actually feel like self-reported confidence? That's a huge thing, right? Can I actually do this? Am I feeling empowered to go into my product right now? So we ask it at the end, but you know who loves this data? My product team, because I can track trends between different product features of what comes in with a lower than other average pre-course confidence rating. Yeah. Like maybe in this product feature, everyone feels bad. Maybe that's telling me something. Sure. And then how much are my courses making an impact there? That might tell me that my content's not great. At the end of each course, not at the end of each lesson, please. At the end of each course, I ask that beginning and end. So each 15-minute increment. And but if the number didn't change a ton, maybe it's my content. Maybe it's something that the product just needs to like improve upon. So we've present that data back. We also add other things. We were talking about engagement. We add questions like that I don't grade. They're free form answers, but we ask things like, how would you use this feature when we introduce a topic or something? What are some of your challenges here? Again, it's an activity. We don't make it required because I'm so worried that a client is like, I already am wasting my time coming to your LMS and now you're requiring that I answer these survey questions. But we get a lot of engagement from it. So I'll ask those questions, send all that to the product team. We use it for use cases. It's really great for data collection. So that's what I really focus on in months 6 through 12. To sum that up, adoption. Think about all the numbers there. Number of registrations. Who are the people who are registering? What's your engagement rate? People that are disappearing and not taking any more training. What's the average number that people are taking if they take 1 or more, or 2 or more, or 3 or more. And what does that tell you about the pathing that you're sending your clients through? And the satisfaction, you want to definitely track whether or not people are finding satisfaction, because if they don't like it, then they're not learning. And then I like this, the self-reported confidence rating. I don't do a lot with measuring knowledge, like your knowledge-based questions. Knowledge check questions. I'm going to say that for when we get into certifications, which we're not at yet. But for now, I use knowledge check questions as engagement measures. I don't always require them. And really, it's like an activity. Like I said, I'm not really tracking the learning. I'm really more interested in the self-reported confidence. So that's what I do during this phase. Oh, and one last thing is, it just so happened to come up during my 6 to 12 month period, is if you do like if you have any like NPS surveys or something that go out to your clients, we have one of the sub questions is, I would recommend Kustomer based solely on education and training. And so obviously I was tracking that one. And so that's the 6 to 12 month period. The 12 plus month period is what your leadership really wants. But this is where you're going to have the dance of maybe educating up a little bit of what is possible. And I'll give you a great example. I'll give you 2 examples. We've been having clients go through implementation since March with KU. So now we're able to actually start tracking. Has it made an impact there? And it did, guys. It went up. It went down. It was so exciting. But the leader of the success team came to my boss and said, I would love to show that KU is making an impact on renewals. I was like, so would I. However, those clients that started to implement with us in March, April, they're not even up for renewal yet. So, how would I track that? And then I would need enough data to be statistically relevant. So, you're going to be probably waiting a while to show bigger things. But this is where having researched in the beginning, all that data was available, keeping in contact the whole time. I meet with my stakeholders monthly, the leaders of the different departments that I mentioned before. I meet with them monthly to understand what their goals are, how their team's changing, what data is available, what have they tracked new that's available, how's you impacted the number of Kustomer, we call it conversations, but like tickets that are coming in. Can you make an impact there? But break it down. Don't just say number overall. Clients that took your training versus didn't take your training, clients that are your target audience versus not your target audience, clients that are in a relative period after, maybe when they had more hand holding or something like that. So yeah, exactly, Brandy. Once you have that data, but it's a matter of waiting. It's a waiting game of when you'd have enough clients go through that. So yeah, our 1-year anniversary is coming up in March, and I'm excited to start demonstrating some more of these. My boss is going to be reporting that update that we've had to the period of time to implement client on Thursday to the org. So I'm very proud, very excited. We're not the only one. That's part of the struggle, is we are hardly the only teams that are trying to affect these major business impacts.
Yeah.
So if you have, my biggest tip is, if your company has a data scientist or somebody who focuses on data, maybe they're in RevOps or something like that, take them to lunch, make them your new best friend. Because personally speaking, I'm not a numbers person. I'm a talkative person, as I'm sure Jack's like, but yeah, I've been very lucky that I've had a lot of friends that are very more data minded than me, and I've like intentionally befriended them. Not that I was being rude. We actually all got along really well, but I went out of my way to meet them and everything. And they've helped me and given me great advice throughout my career of how to think about data, how to demonstrate data, how to create slides and things like that. So, and my other big tip, I know I do want to share is, because this came up and I know I had it in my notes to say, start making slides for your data now. And I guess, Jack, should I show some of those?
Yeah, let's go into it. I think it's great. And it goes into the last part of our discussion that we wanted to get into, like, how do you set your program up for long-term success? So this is actually a great segue. Let's show some of what you've put together. I think the audience would love to see that.
All right, I'll share. Go into the slideshow here. All right, so I've taken all of the data itself out, but this is how I've presented it. And I started putting these slides together after my first quarter of being live. No one asked me to do that, but they will. And so the example was, and I'll go through a couple of these slides. The first part of the year, like most of the other people in the world, I got COVID, and I had COVID for like 2.5 weeks. I felt like garbage. And during that time, my boss says to all her leaders on the team, "Oh, I'm going to be asking you guys to create some slides for a presentation. I need data." If I hadn't already had this ready, I don't know how I would have done that. And it's a huge undertaking. Somebody is going to ask you for this data when you are least prepared for it. So just start making your slides now. Show them off to your boss, show them off to whoever will listen to you. But eventually you're going to get more visibility in your org, and you're going to want slides, and you're just going to have them ready. These were all plug and play. I had all of these ready. I just needed to update the numbers. So this was kind of a demonstration of some adoption. I think I have another slide maybe in here, but I have more slides that cover really adoption, the number of registrations, how many are using it per org, how many per client organization, not just per user, how things have been progressing over time. I guess people didn't really want to take training in December, but how things are progressing over time and really showing that we're getting more and more adoption. Present the numbers that you're learning. We know our completion rates, the confidence rating, the engagement rating. So this is really stuff that I was presenting in those first 6 to 12 month period. I'm still reporting on it. It doesn't get less important. You can add on to it, but these are still really important numbers. These are really important for me as the leader of my team. And then hopefully as we get a little bit further, we get into these kinds of things that are important to my boss and her boss. And maybe the CEO, right? The people who are really excited. So I presented these things with a hypothesis. Not that I'm doing it right now, but that educated clients will renew, that they'll adopt more things, that they'll reach out to us less often, that they'll be really excited, and kind of giving the teaser of, this is the stuff I'm going to be tracking. Hey, leadership, I'm going to be tracking this. And you might be from different kinds of organizations. I am so lucky. I've been unfortunate in other parts of my career, but I've been so lucky that I've had a lot of support from my leadership that when I say I can't prove renewals right now, and they go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Be prepared to explain why you can or cannot track certain things. Because if you lead with, "I'm going to decrease the amount of support tickets we get," and you're asked to report on that 3 months later, you're setting yourself up for failure. So really getting crisp on what are those things you are looking at. Hey, I'm the expert. That's why you brought me in. These are the numbers that are going to trend towards a successful program. This is what I can report on now. As we have a statistically large enough data set, I will be reporting on other things. But this is my hypothesis that some of these are going to do, and cast a wide net, because I might not impact renewals, but I might impact support tickets. So you don't need to do everything, but be tracking it. So at least you know and can speak to it. And then your data is going to tell you how to improve what you're doing. This is what I got into, what's going to be presented this week. And we showed our, change in a major business impact way. So things got a little less fun and a little more number centric. And this is really the first slide I put together that shows the percentage of our clients that adopted us. That's great. But look here, right? The amount of time to go live, to wrap a client, it went down. Now, I know I'm not the only one that did work here, but the numbers stand for themselves.
Yeah. I love this. There are a bunch of, I think people were loving the metric section as anticipated. And there's some questions about, can we do a wrap up of all of these things that you're measuring? So we will give the recording out, and that will be available there. And we'll do a blog post wrap up based on this conversation, and make sure that people get their hands on that as well as a follow-on resource. So Kristi, thank you for walking us through all that. This session has flown by. We had scheduled it for 45 minutes, and here we are at the 45-minute mark. I wanted to we can go into some more Q&A here in a second. I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes wrapping up here. So first and foremost, Kristi was nice enough to share a screenshot of KU. So this is looking beautiful. This is actually what Customer University looks like. This is what your clients experience when they join. Is that right? Yeah.
Sorry, I briefly muted myself. Yes, that's exactly what they see.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you. So a couple of key takeaways from the session today, and then we'll go into some Q&A in a moment here. Internal education and getting alignment on goals is important. Do that from the beginning. Really think about your content. We heard a lot about microlearning and other tips to keep learners engaged. And when it comes to metrics, you're not going to have everything available. This is really where actually the title of this presentation came from. You need to think about your metrics in 3 phases, kind of a crawl, walk, run approach. So some really great learnings. Kristi, thank you so much. I'm going to spend 1 minute talking about WorkRamp, and then I promise we'll get to Q&A. So WorkRamp, we are so proud to work with the most innovative companies out there, Kustomer being one of them, and some of the other customers that you see on this slide. There are really variety of reasons why customers choose to work with us, but 3 I want to highlight. 1, we deliver learning as a platform. So we are an all-in-one learning management system. We allow companies to deliver learning and training at scale for the different audiences that you serve. So we talked a lot about customer education today, but we have purpose-built solutions to really deliver training to your internal team. So sales enablement, revenue enablement, for onboarding and your ongoing L&D and compliance. No need to have different systems across the board. You can do all of that with WorkRamp. We have a huge focus on partnership. We want to support our customers really from the minute we start working with our customers. So everything from implementation services, ongoing customer success resources, our own, academy, help center. And we're really proud of the investments we make in community. So we have a VIP Slack community as one example, where we invite all of our customers to join, network, share best practices, share expertise. And that's a really great thing that we're proud of here at WorkRamp. And finally, we are committed to building best-in-class products. We take the feedback that we get from customers to really help shape what we build next, and we innovate on a regular basis. We're known for things like our intuitive UX and UI. We deliver across multiple learning types, and we have pretty extensive integration. So really some of the reasons I just wanted to highlight on why to think about WorkRamp. If you are interested in learning more, we're launching a poll right now. You can click yes, I'm interested in learning more about how I can invest in a customer education program or in learning in my organization. We'll have somebody follow up with you to learn more about your business and your challenges and see if WorkRamp can help. So with that, let's go into a couple of Q&A. I know we're at time here, but hopefully people can stay on and we can get through a couple more of these questions. So let's see. One of the questions that came in from Ashley, Kristi, do you charge on a recurring basis for access to education courses?
No, we don't. It is gated, so only our clients can see it. But no, we do not charge for what we've created thus far. Will that change as we make different kinds of content in the future? Possibly. But we don't have a strategy there yet. So for right now, no, our training's available to all of our clients.
Love it. Great tip. Another question actually from Ashley as well. Do you have courses and trails based on someone being an admin versus an end user? So basically, do you service different types of roles within your customer base? What's the first journey persona you created when getting this off the ground?
That's a great question. And yes, so we have two groups of users. We have our admins that surface all of the features and settings and everything like that. And then we have our agents who are end users, and we have two different paths for them. The agents, very simple. They don't need a lot of training. Also, clients can customize things to such a degree that overtraining is almost a hindrance. So we did both simultaneously. We only needed one training for our agents, but we wanted agent training to be available. This was again going to alleviate some of the need in the client onboarding experience, where our implementation managers were running a lot of that training for them. And I wanted to make sure that it was really streamlined and something that clients could take advantage of as they onboarded new employees after the onboarding phase had ended. But for admins, yeah, we definitely focused on them. And we have in our community, in our academy, there is a section in there that very specifically says for agents, and they can log in. And that will also be the content that we prioritize translations into multiple languages. We'll actually translate for the end users as opposed to admins first, because we have more of those, more agents.
Got it. Thank you for going through that. One final question, and then we'll wrap it up. Do you have any advice on building a team? Somebody is currently a team of one. What's your advice on that?
I see you. I want to do like the Hunger Games, the 3 fingers up.
Yeah.
I've been in your place before. This is hard, and this is something that I have to give my boss a lot of credit for, because when I joined, part of the case was me plus one. So I started to be able to hire a team. Now, building the team and growing the team, we've done. I actually now am a team plus 2. So there's 3 of us now, which is amazing. And making that was a lot of presenting to the org. What can you accomplish with the resources you have? What could you accomplish with more resources? And what did they want? More or less? And that's kind of where I started. I'm trying to get a little bit more efficient at that now. So I will admit to that not being the area I'm the strongest in metric wise, but we're trying to quantify, my team and I, what our bandwidth is exactly. And actually that's what we did in the beginning. Is I hate doing it. I always feel icky, but we did time tracking, and it was really able to, in data, in numbers that leadership speaks, tell me how long it took to build training, which I accounted back to different complexity of training. And then we knew how much more needed to be done to really fully support self-implementing clients, implementing clients, and that user persona that leadership wanted so much. And I said, well, this is what I can accomplish by the end of the year with the team as it is, versus had I have more resources. And they agreed. They gave me another head count, and now we're a team of 3, and it's awesome. And I'm trying to do more of that as we try to navigate the very good problem of our product team releasing, I think, more updates than we can maybe even keep up with. So trying. So if anyone else has advice, I'd love even for that too. Because it is something that, we all need more people. We all need more help. But best of luck to you as a team of 1. I see you. I've been there, and I'm sure you'll be really proud of what you do, though.
Oh, love it. Well, I know we're at time. Thank you for sticking on for a few extra minutes. It was such a great discussion. I feel like we could have a whole other session on some of the going deeper into some of the things we talked about, but this was so great. Thank you to our audience for joining. And this will be coming out on demand. We'll make sure you get a copy of this. And Kristi, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of your expertise and insights. It was awesome to have this conversation with you today.
No, thank you for having me. I am verbose. If anyone wants to find me on LinkedIn, I could talk more.
Love it. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.